All right. Doing this for the second try now. Okay, so we had technical difficulties before. So we're going to try this again. We're going to do, this is the Mindgasms movie chat on Parasite, of course, which came out in 2019 and is an award-winning Korean film. I think it won 4 or 5 awards. And am I getting a delay again?
Yeah, and it's like
Holy
whenever
shit,
you go
man.
live, it's doing it when you start to go live.
Yeah, there's
Really?
a little bit.
I'm not getting a delay on my end. I'm going to try stopping my camera again.
I can hear you like okay now.
Are you guys still getting a delay in my audio?
I think so.
Okay. Say hoo-ha.
Yeah, it didn't happen when I... Okay. It isn't there.
Still waiting on the hoo-ha.
Oh, wow.
Still waiting on that hoo-ha.
Wow.
Did you get a hoo-ha?
Holy shit, man. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
I didn't ask for that. Just a hoo-ha.
I said hoo-ha.
Oh,
Hoo-ha,
okay.
hoo-ha. Hoo-ha.
All right, so let's try this again. 3, 2, 1, hoo-ha.
Hoo-ha.
Okay, so you're fine now.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, good. So my audio's okay now?
Yep.
Oh, no, he just... Okay. Dusty just dropped out there. Oh, wait. Are you back there now, Dusty? Oh, now we've got both of Dusty joining there. What is going on now? Dusty, are you there?
I am.
It's not letting me
I'm
add
here.
both of that. Oh, there we go. Okay. Are you there, Dusty?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, shit, on my screen, the stream is frozen.
On my screen,
wow.
the stream is also frozen on my phone, but it's okay
Man,
on my
what
tablet.
is happening here? Now the stream is running okay for you. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. It sounds like I have a bit of a delay. Can you hear me now, Dusty?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay. Maybe I just keep getting waves of delays or something like that.
Say
Okay.
hoo-ha.
Hoo-ha.
Yeah, it's just about 5 seconds.
Okay. There's a delay, but it's working in general. You guys can hear me?
Yeah, it's not as bad as it was.
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Did you guys hear what I said at the start this time?
No, you are robotic.
Yep.
Okay. I was just talking about the movie again. I was saying It's the movie that came out last year, 2019, movie Parasite, of course, and it's all about class division and that one of the things that I like about this movie is that not only do the rich hate the poor also hate the rich, and like because the poor people are poor, it's okay for them to be manipulative and manipulate their way into jobs. And yeah, there are lots of interesting aspects of this movie. And Chris, you were talking about your thoughts on this just before we ended the last one due to technical difficulties. So what were you saying there?
Yeah, I was just saying that it like the movie checks a lot of boxes for me. There's kind of a bit of dark comedy to it. There's good guy, bad guy element. There's like elements of surprise. I don't know. I just yeah, I found it on Reddit a while ago because there was a bunch of people talking about it, and I was kind of bored and obviously watched it, and yeah, I was just blown away by, because often when I watch movies, I try to predict where I think the plot is obviously going to end up, and I found with Parasite that there was often a few twists and turns that I didn't think it was going to go. But yeah, and there's also a lot of like, yeah, like you mentioned, class structure, rich and poor, and obviously the main family characters of the movie, obviously poor, and they make their way into a rich household, and all of them getting jobs under the under the family. And yeah, I just there's a lot to that movie. I thought it was well written and well directed and well acted as well. And yeah, I'll pass it off to you, Dusty.
Yeah, there's definitely some crazy twists in the movie, but I'll also say there are some parts that were a little predictable. Like for me, it was when they're having a party while they're away. It was kind of obvious to me that they were going to come back because they're going on this camping trip and it's like raining hard outside. I was like, they're coming back early, and I kind of knew that was going to happen. But yeah, it's really interesting movie. Like I was like, okay, this movie's rated R. Like, what the fuck is gonna happen? And then you get through like half of the movie, and I'm wondering, why is this movie rated R? This just doesn't make sense. And then this scene happens, and you're like, oh, that's why it's rated R. So when that scene happens, it's kind of extremely unexpected. Like, okay, I wasn't kind of expecting something like this to happen,
Mm-hmm.
and it was super awkward. And I think the movie just kind of displays how extremely vapid like the rich family is. Um, like the guy that hands over his duties as a tutor is like, yeah, the lady's not too bright, and we kind of get this sense that yeah, they were easy to manipulate, especially like anything revolving around their son. And the funny thing is, I thought is like they were all pretty competent at their jobs when they did finally take over. So he was like a pretty good tutor. I guess the only thing that was kind of bullshit was the girl who said she was like an art psychologist or something like that.
Yeah.
But everybody else was doing their jobs fairly well
Mm-hmm.
once they got in there.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
was it? Art therapy that one
Yeah,
girl had?
yeah, art therapy.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
like some vapid bullshit that they just like bought into.
yeah, yeah. That the especially the how much the rich people hate the poor is especially evident in like the father talking about how they smell bad and him like wrinkling his nose in that one part for spoilers for those people who haven't seen it, but near the end where he wrinkles his nose and that sets off the father and causes him to stab him, and that's when like everyone's stabbing each other. That was a really clear indication of that hatred of the rich between the poor. And like I said before too, they like the poor family, when they're talking with each other, they just have so much disgust for the rich people too. It's interesting that there's that hatred to each other from each other.
Yeah, because a lot of that like gets really, really it becomes really prominent when they eavesdrop the rich people's conversations when they're trying to hide from them. And he's just talking like a lot of shit about how the dad smells. And then, they got to sit through them, kind of awkwardly getting off. And then they have to escape that situation. And I think it's at that moment, the rated R moment, is when the family, like the poor family, is made to feel like at their worst. Because they're just talking shit about them, and they just got to sit there and listen, and they can't defend themselves, and they're sitting there hiding right under that table.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's also funny that the son subverted them by becoming a romantic interest for the daughter. It's like, screw you guys, look what I'm doing here.
Yeah, for sure. And there were some aspects of it though that I was kind of disappointed they didn't go farther with, like that green rock that seemed like really symbolic. It seemed like it gave you that green rock gives you good fortune, and I thought there was going to be something to do with that green rock passing on to someone else with all that terrible shit happening to the main poor family at the end. And I thought there was going to be like I thought the ending was going to be a little different too. Like I thought like that everything that the guy, it was interesting that that former maid, for example, that she was hiding her husband in the basement that the rich family didn't know about for years. And I thought it was interesting that at the end the main father of the main poor family, they hide him in the basement for years, and then his son makes lots of money and buys the house, and then basically he gets away with murder. I thought that was that part and the green rock part were kind of like mildly disappointing to me.
Yeah, another thing I thought was quite odd was that at least the younger kids or the children in the poor family, they were way too good looking to be poor. I'm sorry. It's like, man, the daughter's hot. There's no way she'd be poor. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that's probably some Hollywood thing. Yeah.
They seem to articulate, and they seem pretty intelligent, and they knew what was, I don't know, they didn't seem like you would think a poor Korean would live or think, you know what I mean? So
like, I understood the parents because they were like, the parents definitely seemed working class, like just the way they acted, and the dad had kind of like this working class attitude, but the kids seemed pretty intelligent. It's like the son, I guess he was trying to go to college or something. What was it, the story that he kind of dropped out or something like that, or he didn't really go to college? It's just that he was really good at English, so they went and his friend was like, hey, you could do this. And then the girl, I don't know what her story was, but man, was that a con that she pulled off. I think her con was probably the most difficult and required like the most improvisation. I was like, oh wow. But the other, like, she probably had the hardest con in all of it, and the others were actually just kind of naturally good at, at what they were chosen to do.
Yeah, and not hard. Like the mother was simply, being like not a maid, but taking care of the house, which she was doing at
Yeah.
home. And the father was being a chauffeur, pretty much, and he knew the city really well. So those were he fell into those easily.
What was the girl doing again? She was like the art therapist.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
What were they doing? Well, they were folding pizza boxes in the beginning of the movie. I was like, this doesn't seem like a legit job, but okay, I'll buy into it.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't know that was a job. That sounds like something that a machine would do.
Yeah, but it was like, okay, pizza box folding. I'm guessing you can't really make too much money off of that. But
Yeah.
typically, when I think of people folding pizza boxes, it's usually people that just work and at the restaurant, right? Like, I don't think they would outsource pizza box folding to like some poor family that lives like in the outskirts of town. It just seems kind of weird. But I think they just did that to be kind of funny. I don't think they're trying to be serious about it.
You know what's some another like sort of weird random thing that I noticed? The placement of their toilet in their bathroom in their house.
Really high.
It was like it's like up in the cornice, up in the corner on a dais on like some raised platform. It's like right up in the corner against the roof. I'm like, why would you put a toilet there? What's up with that?
Yeah, it was so weird, especially when the toilet exploded full of poop and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't get that bathroom setup.
Yeah,
I thought they did a pretty good job
that
though,
was
is at just kind of showing how poor they were, like in their own home. They did a good job with that setup there. They're like, man, these people are poor.
Must have something to do with the rain, though. 'cause
yeah.
Maybe it floods down there a lot, and that's why they have to have the
Yeah,
bathroom.
that aspect was extreme. That was good. Yeah,
Yeah, it's funny. Going back to the pizza folding box thing that Dusty was talking about, I worked for Domino's for like 5 years as a driver, and when we were waiting in between deliveries, we would fold those boxes in the store. So definitely not a job that you would outsource to other, you know what I mean, people. But
Yeah, I just thought that was strange in the beginning, but
there was a few things that were strange that were just like, I don't know. It was amusing, but like them living in the basement of this house, like for such a long time, is not something that I saw coming at all in the plot. That kind of like threw me for a loop.
yeah.
And
Me
it was
neither.
so
Yeah,
hyperbolic that at first you're taken back and like it's so silly, but then I don't know. At the same time, it kind of it made the plot more interesting at that point because then the father ends up living down there for such a long time, and then the son ends up trying to make money.
yeah.
To get
Some of that seems like it's almost like deliberately so absurd that it's kind of meant to be a little bit satirical or like a little bit of black comedy or something like that. I think maybe they were trying to sort of weave just at least little moments of those sorts of scenes into it, maybe.
Yeah, because up to that point, the whole plot is like semi-believable. You can believe that a son and a daughter kind of creep their way into this family and try to, become exactly like the title of the movie it says, a parasite. Slowly, getting there, and then all of a sudden you just find out that there's like this whole other family that's living, or the husband's living under, and the wife is like basically working and shoving food under him for seems like decades or years upon years, right? So
it's Parasiteception.
That's why That's why I like the title of the movie, because you could look at both families as parasites, because the poor family are like being parasites by, manipulating their way into making lots of money by working for the rich people in a way. But you could say that the rich people are parasites in a way because they're so they become so dependent on the people who they hire to work for them. It's like they're sucking the life out of them for money or something.
It has multiple meanings, the parasite.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well, I also
what do you
thought
think?
there were horror elements too. Like I definitely thought that once they introduced the basement family, I was like, okay, this is gonna take a really weird turn here. And you
Yeah,
could
actually,
just tell how they lit the scenes involving the basement, that there was going to be some type of horror element like thrust in there somehow. I was just waiting for it. It's like,
yeah.
okay, some people are going to get killed now. What's going to happen now?
I was especially expecting that one part. I forget who it was. I think it was maybe one of the kids was looking down at the basement door at one point, and you see like someone's head start to pop up, and it makes it almost seem like it's supposed to be some sort of supernatural creature that is slowly revealing itself. So I was kind of expecting that some horror elements like that too.
Yeah, and it
Were
got
you
weird where like
expecting
the
any
Paris.
horror?
Oh, go ahead, Andrew.
Were you expecting any horror based on what was happening, Chris?
No, I wasn't. I don't know because the whole movie starts off like this, kind of like a dramatic, funny, dark comedy, right? And then the violence doesn't really take place until near the end of the movie, right? So I didn't. And there's blood everywhere, and the son ends up dying. Spoiler alert. I didn't see that coming at all, but there was multiple things that I didn't see coming about. I didn't even know what to expect about the movie. Honestly, I started watching the movie strictly just based on people on Reddit saying watch this movie. I didn't read about the plot at all. I didn't watch the trailer. I didn't, I was basically I just found the source for it somewhere and then watched it. So I didn't even know what I was kind of getting into. I never even heard of I forget his name, the director, Bon June or something like
Oh
that.
yeah, he's well known for some other movie, right? I
Yeah, and
forget.
he is. Apparently he's done like a bunch of these films that are super well written and like he's like I don't know. I don't want to say that like the Tarantino of Korean directors, but he's like you know what I mean? Like he's super well known and has done some other really good films. So
I'm gonna look him up on IMDb here. Bong Joon Ho. I
yeah.
like his first name, Bong.
Yeah,
His
I was gonna
films,
say.
his
Um,
films. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I just have a little bit of a delay, but yeah, I was gonna say, like I had no idea what, like, kind of like Chris, I had no idea what I was coming into. At first glance, I thought this movie was going to be like about like some zombie outbreak, and then my wife was like, "Oh, there's no way I'm going to be able to watch this." Like, I had no idea what it was about. And then after I told her, "Oh yeah, there's no zombies or anything in it," so I'd say it's a really weird movie, but you might like it. But there's no scary stuff. She thought it was going to be like some type of sci-fi horror movie
Yeah, that
based
would have
off of
been
the
an
name.
interesting turn for it if they went more into that. But the like you were saying before, Chris, the violent part still almost seems to come out of nowhere too, which is interesting, and then it just turns into like a confused, chaotic killing spree, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I didn't see that coming at all. Especially because they portray the father and as such like a family oriented guy at the beginning of the film. You know, he cares about what his kids are up to, and he's obviously trying to do his best, even though they live in a poor situation, to try to, you know, be the breadwinner in the family and, you know, bring home the bacon and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, for him to just become, for everything to just become violent there, it's wow.
Oh, so I'm looking at Bong Joon-ho, his filmography on IMDb here. He also did that movie Snowpiercer. Have you guys heard of that one with Chris Evans, Captain America? It's also a class structure movie. It's not a Korean film though. It's like in English. It's a film in English, and it's about how in a there's a series based on the movie on Netflix now too. It's about how there's a post-apocalyptic world, and I think it's something that there was a nuclear attack, and it led to a nuclear winter. So the world's last human survivors go around on this endless loop on a train, because if you go outside, it's so cold that you'll die. And they just keep the train running endlessly. But there's clear class division on the train. There's poor people at the back of the train, and then the rich people are at the front of the train. And Chris Evans is like a lower class guy who becomes the lower class hero, who decide to risk either taking down the rich and taking control of the train, or destroying the train and causing chaos and ending everything for everybody. And then I think the other movie that he directed that looks familiar to me is no, I haven't heard of any of these other ones other than Mother. If it's the one that I think it is, it's one with Jennifer Lawrence, but I'm not sure if it's the same film because it says 2009. There was oh no, that's not the one I'm thinking of. So I guess Snowpiercer is the only other one of his that I've heard of that I've actually seen.
Well, one more than me, my friend. I've only seen the Parasite, so
Yeah.
but you know, it was such a well-directed film, Parasite, that I should go back and watch the rest of his catalog to see where, you know what I mean, what his other movies are like. What did you think about because I'm not gonna lie, when I first read that I'd be reading Korean subtitles throughout the whole thing, that was kind of which I've done before for other movies, but I feel like that's something that you really have to, like, you know, clear 2 hours out of your day, put your phone in another room, and really pay attention to a film. It's not a film that you could have like anything going on while you're, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But for this one, I don't know. There was some dark humor involved in it, and the Korean subtitles weren't as much of a nuisance to me as I thought they would be. I don't know. Maybe that was just me.
Yeah, when I watched this, it was like at 2 in the morning.
Oh, I forgot I had myself muted. Yeah, my thoughts about it were similar to yours, Chris. Like, I was kind of reticent to watch it because it had subtitles, but I have also watched many movies before that have subtitles anyway, and I watched it and it totally worked for me. And like we all mentioned too, the humor totally worked too, which is probably more difficult to convey in a different
Over text.
language.
Yeah, that's right.
Are we talking? We're forgetting about the mom was a hammer throw champion.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, we do.
And her hammer throw skills probably are what saved her life. She's not like a skinny and dainty woman, you know. She has some husk to her. So when the guy tries to kill her at the end, she's able to actually get out of the situation because she's just
Yeah.
not some dainty woman.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
remind me, do you guys remember? By the way, if you guys want to, we could do a chat on Snowpiercer at some point if you guys want to watch that. I think it's on Netflix. Um,
I haven't seen it yet, so that would be interesting.
yeah. Do you guys remember, like, I don't remember the dynamics exactly of who kills who at the end. I remember that the father of the poor family kills the father of the rich family, and the former maid or housekeeper's husband, who has been hiding in the secret bomb shelter room in the basement, comes up and kills, I think he kills the son of the poor father's family, like you just mentioned, but I don't
Well, the
remember
son
anything other
actually
than.
survives, though.
Mhm.
Oh, right. The son survives because then he buys the house eventually, so his father can come out of the secret bomb shelter place. Right. So
Yeah,
who?
that ending is pretty crazy too. But I think
Yeah,
the first person, okay, so the son gets knocked out, but we think he gets killed because this giant rock just smashes him in the head, and there's
yeah,
like a huge puddle of blood. And
yeah,
then, and this is all triggered because um, the man's wife was pushed down the stairs,
right.
and I guess she had a concussion and she went to sleep and just didn't wake up or something like that. That's what
Yeah,
we assume, I guess. But anyway, he's upset. He breaks out. The son gets smashed in the head, and the first person he goes after is the daughter, and she gets stabbed, and then the mom. I don't know who. The mom goes in, and because this gets pretty chaotic at that point when they're fighting each other. But I know the daughter gets stabbed and killed. Then he goes after the mom, and then they fight. And I know the dad kind of pitches in too. But I think the mom like stabs him in the side or something with some crazy sword thing.
yeah. I think you
But
might be right. Yeah,
yeah, because I think it's the mom that actually kills him. And then the thing that triggers the father is that the rich dad is like a coward. So instead of helping anybody, he's like, "Let's get out of here."
Yeah,
and
that's
the
right.
and
This
he also that's like he also gets triggered by, he does that like little sniffing gesture, like he's sniffing the poor man, and he, because he mentioned earlier that he smells really bad, and that like
hmm
angers him and sets him off, right?
Yeah. So it's too. It's like his daughter just got killed, basically.
Mhm.
They offered no help whatsoever,
Yeah,
and then that as well. And he's like, "Fuck this guy," and then he goes and stabs them. And then what happens is I forgot who tries to save him, but he goes and he kind of tricks everybody to think that he fled the scene. But we find out later on that he actually doubles back into the basement, locks it up, and just sits there um, until the son becomes successful and he buys the place.
Wasn't it
But
like
oh,
he
an
sits there.
we forgot to mention too that the the father then does what the husband of the former maid slash housekeeper was doing, which is conveying messages in Morse code
Yeah, that's
with,
right.
I forget how exactly that message system worked.
It was
Well,
with
there
the
was like a light switch in the basement, right, that controlled. Um, I don't know if it was a light switch or a breaker, but he was allowed to flick some lights that were kind of in like a above a staircase. I think the son remembered that the crazy guy would use that to communicate, and then he went to observe the house because he had some idea that maybe his dad was there. So he went and he saw the message, and he's like, "Oh shit, like he's down there."
Right.
So,
Like
but
it
yeah,
seems like that's one thing that I thought was weird, that it seems like it would have been a lot easier to just break into that house when whoever's living there is on vacation, than it does to spend years developing a great career and making tons of money so that you can buy this house so that you can get your father out of the basement. Like, that
Well, I don't
seems like
think he actually
really,
got him out of the basement, because we have to remember that the guy is going to be on the run for his whole life,
yeah.
right?
because he's
Like,
murdered somebody.
yeah, he murdered the dad. So what I'm thinking is he stayed there because that's basically the safest place he could be.
I guess that's a
Um,
good point. Yeah.
yeah,
They
because
just
they're not
show
going to look for the murderer in the house where the dude got murdered. Like, they assume that he fled the scene. And you have to also remember the only people who knew about that underground basement were the parasites. Like, the rich people didn't know. Um, so it was like an awesome place to hide because nobody knew that little thing existed below the house.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then I guess if you own the house, then he can stay, like, he can stay in that house slash hide in the shelter forever if he needs to, I guess, as long as he doesn't get seen by anyone, right?
Yeah, so the only way he can have any type of, I guess, solace is if, his son owned the house, because he was still sneaking out, right, to get food and stuff. And he basically had zero human contact with anybody outside of, I guess he did send a letter, right? But like, outside of that, he had to stay on the DL in order to avoid being arrested by the authorities, because there were a bunch of witnesses there. He was on camera. It's not like everybody knows who did it, so
Yeah.
he didn't have any options.
That's an interesting moral and philosophical choice too, to do that for your father, to conceal the fact that he's hiding there for however many years it was, and then buy the house and then hide him forever, because even though he murdered someone. That's an interesting philosophical and, well, moral choice that I wonder, I wonder if everyone would make that, because some people, maybe if it's even a small percentage of people, probably would still tell the cops that their father killed someone because they wouldn't be able to live with the guilt, perhaps. But I don't know. Like, if I if I were ever in that sort of situation, I would think that I would probably do the same thing because I love my parents so much. But, like, it's easy to think that you would do that way when you're watching a movie about it. You don't have to actually live with the guilt of knowing that a family member murdered someone, even if it was someone who murdered your own family member. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
See, I think like the family, the family, the nuclear family being held together throughout the whole thing was like not one of the main plots going for them, but like, this was a tight family that was like, I don't know, they seemed very transparent with each other more than other families, more than you would think a traditional Korean family would be acting with one another too. They were involved in each other's lives. They were, I don't know, they seemed really tight and close to me. So for the son, for example, to go sacrifice pretty much a huge chunk of his life to save up and buy the house again to free his father. Um, yeah, I see this family as very loving and very close family that would go to those lengths and sacrifice to do crazy things like even though your father committed murder to try to free him or whatever. So
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
That's
and
a
it's
good.
different too,
Yeah.
because the mother was really the only witness to the murder.
uh-huh.
As the son was knocked out, daughter was dead. You had some other, like, bystanders, But if he was going to find out about the murder, it would have been through his mom. And they were all there hiding under the coffee table when he started talking shit. And then the mom saw that he fled instead of offering any type of assistance after her daughter had been killed. Like, they got no help, and they had to deal with that by themselves. And I don't know. I feel I would feel for that family in that situation.
Yeah.
Because the dad was just a complete dick. Yeah, he was an asshole. Not the rich dad. That's who I'm talking about. Not the poor dad. And he had I think out of everybody, he had the hardest time because he had to have these conversations with the rich dad, always talking shit about the smell, and then he goes and tells his wife, oh, he almost crossed the line, blah 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 blah. I was like, oh. But he was really frank with them, like, because he saw, like, the dad saw how fake their relationship was, and he would kind of skirt the line of offense by kind of talking about it. Like, I know he mentioned something about his wife. Oh, she loves you, or something like that, which caught a little bit of offense. Because they had a very wooden relationship.
Yeah. Oh, are you going all robot-y there? Does he go in robot-y for you, Chris?
He did for a second, but
Are you still there?
I turned into a robot?
Yeah, you did for a sec. You're good now, though.
Oh, yeah, I was just saying that the relationship between the rich mom and rich dad was like super wooden and didn't really seem loving to me.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And you see like a few times in the movie when the dad of the poor family comes into the house and happens to be in the kitchen when his wife is also there, and they're not the rich family isn't supposed to know that they know each other, but like when no one else is looking, he'll like grab her ass. So that goes back also to, you mentioned, Chris, that there's such a tight knit family. That's a good point for why you would be able to make that sacrifice, as you said, to give up such a huge chunk of your life. Because like my family growing up, we were always like fairly close, and our parents emphasized having like a good family structure and all that good stuff. But I know lots of people who came from families where their parents were divorced and they never spent that much time together. Maybe they all spent a lot of time alone and didn't have meals together or anything like that. And maybe you would be less likely to do something like that if you had this sort of fractured relationship with your family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's I like with my own family, we eat dinner together every night. Like, it's not at a dinner table. Like, it's not like, oh, we just sit around the house and eat whenever we want. There's an actual time where we come together and eat dinner, and and we put the news on, basically. But that's just
good.
kind of,
That's probably
I
a
know.
rare thing nowadays.
Yeah, I know. Towards, I would say, after, I guess after when we hit puberty, that's when people started doing their own thing in my own household. But yeah, right now we all eat dinner together. We eat breakfast together. Like, all of our meals, we try to make sure to eat together at the table.
That's great.
But yeah, I think yeah, that family. It's just it sounds like the lower class family just loves each other. Um, they're not really fighting for any type of status outside of their family. It seems like the plight for status for the rich family has caused them to sacrifice that close knit relationship that they have with each other, which is
Well
why it
said.
seems like they have such a wooden, like fake and almost I don't know. It's like the difference between getting like eating a processed meal and a meal that was like farm to table. Like
Yeah.
I kind of feel like the rich family is that processed meal. There's like no love in it whatsoever. And then you have this poor family that's struggling. And I think it's the struggle itself is actually something that makes them more tight knit as well. So, there's that struggle. It's more organic. Um, it's not like this weird status thing. Like it's like the rich family. It's like all they do is care about their status with their son. It's like he's going to become the next big artist and whatnot. And the daughter, they just seem to kind of ignore her for the most part, um, in favor of the son. But yeah, the daughter is just like there, and you could see that she feels like she's being ignored by the parents as well. So yeah, I can kind of see how that can happen.
Yeah, that was all very well said, for sure.
Yeah, it's true. You could see how, like, the poor family, although on the surface they are poor, but they're rich because they're such a tight knit group. Whereas the rich family is on the surface looks like they have everything going for them because they have a nice house, obviously, and he drives a nice car, he's got a nice job, but really they're lacking the family unity and stuff. So yeah,
For sure. Yeah, different
Yeah,
values, right? Like
yeah,
the rich family, like you were saying, Dusty, and well, like both of you were saying, they value like status and money, and the poor family, they value, well, they're just trying to survive basically, and they value like their family, they value each other.
yeah. Which I
yeah.
didn't
It's
really.
like the struggle strengthens their bonds. Like the
Yeah,
struggle that they're going through strengthens their bonds. Whereas the rich family, they're not struggling, so they just don't have the strength of bond that the poor family has.
yeah, for sure.
I never really picked that up until thinking it through right now. Like,
Yeah, me
obviously,
neither,
I
actually.
saw that. Like, you see that watching the movie, the different families, how they interact with one another. But yeah, I didn't really, yeah, put that together until we just talked about it right now.
Yeah, me neither. That was a good observation, Dusty.
Yeah, it's because when you in the movie, you frequently see the poor family all together. Um, the rich family, I don't think you ever see them all together until they're at the party
Hmm.
or when they're on the camping trip, which goes sour pretty quickly.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
even before everything kind of takes a bad turn, like, that family is coming back, and that the poor family is all sitting there at the table. They're all drinking like all the alcohol and eating all the food and all that kind of stuff. They're still enjoying each other's company even before the rich family returns home, and then everything kind of falls apart.
yeah, yeah, for sure. They're all sitting, like you said, they're all sitting at the table, spending family time together.
Yeah, yeah,
That that's an interesting. I think you might have mentioned that earlier, Dusty. That scene where they're all hiding under the table, or actually, you guys were just talking about this too, where when the family is coming back, and I think, is it all of them or just some of them who have to stay there under the table while the rich husband and wife have sex with each other while they're lying there on the couch while they're son is camping in the backyard.
Well, the only one that doesn't have to hide is the mom, because
That's right.
she was doing the housekeeping.
Right,
But everybody else wasn't supposed to be there.
right.
So everyone else was hiding, and then she corralled them out when it was safe. But yeah, the son, the daughter, and the dad were hiding under the table.
Right.
During the masturbation scene. I was like, okay, this is why it's rated R. Okay, I get it.
Yeah. And all the violence at the end, obviously.
Well, that was like, yeah, I considered it more PG violence than R violence. Like, we didn't have anyone get beheaded or
Wasn't there blood?
anyone's guts. Well, it was
There was
blood.
blood.
Yeah, you'll see blood in PG-13.
Will you?
Yeah.
Okay.
You never seen a movie that has violence and blood and
Well, I mean,
doesn't have an R rating?
if I remember
Like
correctly,
RoboCop 3 is PG-13.
I haven't seen that one. You said it was bad.
Yeah, it's bad.
Like most of the time, at least if I'm watching like shooter action movies and they're PG-13, often when people get shot, there isn't any blood.
I mean, like there's squibs.
Well, no, like they're well, like in real life, they're squibs. Yeah.
Well, there was blood here. Like there was blood, yes, but there was no gore. Like,
That's true.
yeah, they had the boy got hit in the head, and there's like a puddle of blood. There is no close-ups of like actual physical damage. The daughter was stabbed, and there was like a blood pool, like coming from her clothes, but we didn't see like the actual flesh getting ripped into or anything. Same thing when he got stabbed in the end with the sword. It just kind of pierced his side, but we didn't see it actually like going into his flesh or anything. Like everything was through clothing.
That's true.
Like no one got their like throat slashed or dismembered or anything like that. No, yeah, there was blood, but it was all through clothing.
True.
Yeah, it's not like RoboCop where he gets like dismembered by shotgun blasts.
He gets shot like 100 times and there's blood everywhere.
Yeah, or like the guy who gets shot up by the ED-209, like it's basically turned into hamburger.
Yes.
Yeah. No, watching RoboCop more recently, like with a more satirical mindset, that kind of makes me want to watch the Kill Bill movies again, especially Volume 1, because those are like the few Quentin Tarantino movies where I liked them the first time I watched them, and then the second time I watched them, like, yeah, this deliberately over the top bloodiness and violence isn't working for me as much this time. But you have to look at that movie as a satire, like it's deliberately over the top in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I thought it was. I know we're not talking about Total Recall, but there's definitely satire in there.
Yeah, there's
definitely some in there. Like I thought it was pretty funny.
They're definitely like you and I we'll talk about this more next week, but like I thought that most of the comedy came from it being like a really 80s movie and from Arnold's acting and his cheesy Arnold lines. But yeah, there
some of it was outside of Arnold though. Like the freaking cab, like the robot cab, got pissed off at Arnold and tried to kill him. Like,
oh yeah, that's true.
It's like, okay, that's super ridiculous.
Yeah, that's true.
And the girl with the 3 boobs.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
actually started watching the newer one. I haven't finished yet, and the three boob chick makes a cameo there.
Does
It's
she
Oh,
not
I
the
was
same.
gonna ask you about
That's
that. We can
hilarious.
talk about that when we do the episode on that too. I watched that 2012 one with Colin Farrell and Kate Beckinsale recently. I was really disappointed by it. They don't even go to Mars, man.
Really?
They
No.
mentioned Mars in the beginning of the movie, but I haven't watched it all. But I've watched about the first half hour of it.
No, again, like similar to well, what you've said about RoboCop with Paul Vanderhoven versus not Paul Vanderhoven. It's like you have to like Total Recall. It's a Paul Vanderhoven movie. There's supposed to be some over the top humor in there, and if you make those satirical themes all serious, it doesn't work as well. Which to me they did with the remake.
Mm. Well, I'll say this: there's definitely over-the-top violence in the first Total Recall, just like there is in RoboCop. I think, like, I was specifically looking for it, and it's there. I'll have to reference it when we talk about it, but it's a little bit more like all of the Vanderhovenness, or what? That's not his name, is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Paul Vanderhoven.
yeah,
Well, anyway, all of he is a bit more subtle in the movie, but it's there. All those elements are there.
yeah.
But
Point them
yeah,
out to me more next week.
we're
Yeah.
off topic.
Yeah, the that there is definitely like when particularly when Arnold kills people in that movie, the violence is over the top. Like that line that you were quoting to me the other day when he says,
Oh,
"You at the party, Richter," after that
yeah.
guy's arms get ripped off.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely some cheesy one-liners, but that's Arnold. Like, you
Yeah,
can't have an Arnold movie without cheesy one-liners after he
yeah.
kills a bad guy.
Yeah, exactly. It reminded me of that one in Predator when he kills that guy from by throwing a knife at him and pinning him to a tree, and then he says, "Stick around."
Yeah, it's just stupid one-liners. We just don't see those anymore, right? Like, I
Yeah,
can't think of any modern action films that still use those. Like, even Die Hard has had its moments with its one-liners after he kills a bad guy. I'm trying to think
yippee-ki-yay,
of. I
motherfucker.
think The Rock actually kind of still fills that role.
Yeah,
'Cause I think I was watching. It seems like he makes like a million movies nowadays, but I was watching Skyscraper, and he does have a couple one-liners in there.
oh yeah, oh okay.
Yeah, like The Rock is our new Arnold, basically. Like, he's like the big tough action hero dude who will say one-liners sometimes.
I like it when he does more comedic stuff too, like that movie Pain and Gain, where he and Mark Wahlberg and I forget that guy's name, but he was in season 2 of Altered Carbon. Anthony Mackie. They all play bodybuilders and they're like really dumb and do this scheme and they make lots of money and then Dwayne Johnson's character blows away all his money by doing coke and yeah, that's such a funny movie.
Yeah, he's better at comedy than Arnold was.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
He can definitely do full comedic roles. Like, I think he does some in Jumanji. He's kind of like a goofy dude in that.
Oh, I
And
haven't seen that.
you
The
haven't
new
seen
one.
Jumanji? Yeah,
I've
it's
seen the
Jumanji's.
classic with Robin Williams, of course.
Oh yeah, well the new one is like a modernized version. It's like it's not a board game anymore. It's a video game.
Oh, okay.
And I'm trying to think. There's some other comedy movie with him and Kevin Hart, but I don't know what the movie's called.
Okay.
But I believe like he was like The Rock was like some fat ugly kid, and then he became like
The Rock.
some super muscly bodybuilder. and
Okay.
he's supposed to be some type of secret agent. I don't know. I just remember seeing a trailer about it.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Did we lose Chris?
I don't know. Maybe you
This
turned his.
picture's gone.
Did you just turn your camera off, Chris? Oh, he said something. Oh, he's going to the bathroom. Yeah, you just said that in the
Okay.
chat.
Okay, he didn't want his urine to be audible.
Yeah, we've definitely done that on mixed mental arts in particular many times, eh?
Oh yeah, that's just whatever. No one cares. But, yeah, because I was listening because I was thinking, yeah, nobody writes piss or pooping scenes or whatever, and I was just listening to Best Served Cold, and I was like, oh, there's a peeing scene in here. Awesome.
I didn't even remember that.
Yeah, there's definitely a peeing scene in Best Served Cold.
When is that?
It is, I think, the mercenary guy. What's his name? Casca.
Yeah.
I think he's like trying to take a piss, but he's having like bladder problems,
Oh, okay.
and it just like comes out in splats, like sputters and splats instead of a stream.
Oh, okay. I fucking love that book. That's my favorite Joe Abercrombie book. It
I'm
might be
not
my,
done with it.
it might be my favorite grimdark fantasy book.
Because I'm getting through it. I'm enjoying it, but I'm still loving Last Argument of Kings better so far.
Oh, okay.
I just thought, oh man, Last Argument of Kings, so much crazy shit's going on.
Is that the third one?
Yeah, that's the last book in that trilogy.
Right.
This book seems to be pretty good. Like, is this book a one shot, or is there kind of other books in that story?
I think it's one shot. I think I thought that that after First Law, the first Law trilogy, that there's a second trilogy, but I think it's actually the case. I think it's actually the case that right after the first Law trilogy, Joe Abercrombie wrote like I think he wrote a bunch, like at least 3 standalone novels in the First Law universe with different characters, and then I think after that he started doing another series. I think that might be what he's working on right now, like what his next book is. I don't remember. Like I've seen Daniel Green talk about this, that booktuber Heath. I don't remember. I've seen him talk about this, but I don't remember whether Joe Abercrombie's next book is like another one in a new First Law series, or if it's another standalone one. I think it might be like one in a new series, but like I said, I don't remember for sure.
Okay, I kind of figured it was going to be a standalone because at this point in the book, she's killed like 5 of 7. So I was like, okay, she's probably going to kill the rest of them. There's like 7 hours left in the book, so it's basically well titled. It's a revenge story through and through.
For sure.
It's very gray because you find out like throughout the story that Moscato wasn't like the greatest of people.
No, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Anti-hero, like, just like Logan Nine Fingers.
Yeah. I liked Logan better, but yeah.
I actually like him better as a character.
Well, Logan is weird too.
Yeah. I actually do like Logan Nine Fingers.
I just thought Logan was more badass.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. Chris probably doesn't know what we're talking about.
He was badass, but his badassness was like an extreme double-edged sword. Like whenever he got badass, like bad shit was gonna happen on both sides.
Like he that's true. Like unlike I forget the fucking main character's name in Best Served Cold, but she doesn't go into
Moscato.
She she doesn't go into berserker mode like Loken Nine Fingers and just go like fucking batshit crazy with murdering the fuck out of everyone in sight, like you said, whether it's an ally or an enemy.
Well, the weird thing
Well, what we're
is
talking
like
about,
halfway
Chris,
in
by the way, is
yeah,
this.
Sounds like a graphic novel series. No?
Actually, there is a graphic novel of the first
They're
law, like the
fantasy
first.
novels. Oh, there is? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, first law. The trilogy has a graphic novel series.
Oh, okay. But yeah, they were originally novels, and they're like grimdark fantasy novels, so like Game of Thrones in terms of the atmosphere, but they're way more violent. Like it's about a whole bunch of anti-heroes who are like assassins, basically.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah,
cool.
the second book is basically anti-hero assassin. Well, I'm saying like the Joe Abercrombie, the Best of Cold is like a rag. It kind of reminds me of Suicide Squad in a way.
Oh yeah, it kind of
Um,
is. It's like a
yeah,
it's like an anti-hero dream team going on a mission together.
because the first book is like they kind of have their class differences, so it's like the Northern Barbarian, the wizened old and crotchety magician, and the nobleman. So you just kind of smash all of them together. Then you got a slave. So you have all these people from different walks of the socioeconomic spectrum, and you just smash them together and see how they interact when you throw them together and make them go on a quest. And then Joe Abercrombie really loves crippled people as in protagonists.
And antagonists.
Well, I don't know. I'd say Glocka is I think he's a protagonist.
You think so? I think he's meant to be an antagonist. Like
I don't think so. Like
isn't he sort of the enemy of Logan Nine Fingers?
Not really.
No?
No, because Nine Fingers' main enemy is Fenris the Feared.
True.
And what's his name? Bethod.
Okay. By the way, there are like a whole bunch of no, there are at least a few giant surprise twists at the end of Best Served Cold that will.
Okay, I'm not quite there yet, so
I'll be interested to see what you think about those.
Well, the latest twist I have is that Casca became the general of the mercenary group that Moscato was leading. But they're like, oh shit, okay. Well, yeah, I'm going to be done with it within the next couple of days, so it should be pretty. I'm excited. It's a good read. And it's just there's funny stuff in there. It's like hilarious, grim. Like it's weird because some grim stuff in this book is super funny. Like there's this part where I think Moscato's stabbing someone to death, and like Joe Abercrombie's just kind of describing the sounds. It's like squish, squirt, squash, and then it's like, yeah, the knife is digging in and hitting bone, and then he's making all these. It's just funny when the narrator says it. So I was kind of laughing. It's super grim and macabre, but it's also funny. Like, why is he describing these sounds in the way he's describing it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's like the way he describes it is like, okay, she's stabbing somebody. And then he's like, yes, basically the sounds of fucking. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't be able to tell if she was stabbing someone to death or if two people were fucking. I was like, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like
there's a lot of really dark humor in there.
It's like how in the sex scenes, they're like violent sex scenes. They like to be like rough, with each other, and they're like some parts of that are kind of funny because of that too. It's similar to like the awkward, that like funny because they're awkward sex scenes in Best Argument of Kings, I think it is the second one. Or wait, no, the whatever the second book is in the First Law series, when there are those funny awkward sex scenes, it's similar to that but in a different way, because they're not awkward but they're like violent, but because some of the stuff they like rough is done in a funny way, it makes some of that funny too.
Well, there's definitely some awkward stuff in this book. There's a scene where okay. There's a scene where like the two main characters are getting it on, Shivers and Moscato or Mikado or whatever her name is, and like Shivers gets super surprised after Moscato shoves like a finger up his ass.
Oh, right.
And she's like immediately apologizing about it. And he's like, "Oh no, it wasn't that. I can hear somebody outside." God damn it. What, like, damn you, Joe, and your awkward and weird sex scenes.
Yeah, that was funny. Did you see that? Oh wait, I think I asked you that before and you hadn't yet because you hadn't read. You wanted to read like every Joe Abercrombie book first, I think you said, because you were afraid of spoilers. But you didn't see that that Daniel Green, that like fantasy science fiction booktuber for people watching this interview with him, right?
Yeah, I didn't watch his review because I was afraid that there was going to be spoilers, like when he interviewed him. So yeah, I didn't watch it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think there were any, for me there weren't any spoilers for any of the books that I haven't read. I think you could probably just watch, or I mean just read the first Law trilogy and still watch that and not get any spoilers.
Okay. Yeah, it's just the way that Joe describes combat as insane. Like, I think there was this one part in the book where somebody slit some other person's throat, and he described like the sounds that it was making. Like the person wasn't gurgling on blood. He said the person was trying to speak, and the only thing you could hear is this faint farting noise. It's like, man, that's some crazy way to describe like someone choking on their own blood.
Yeah, he likes to describe gore in bizarre ways.
Yeah, definitely. Very imaginative, this guy.
Yeah, that's why he's called King Grimdark on Twitter, I think. Or Lord Grimdark, something
Lord
like
Grimdark.
that. Yeah.
But if you want to, like, I've read some Grimdark stuff recently that I think you'd like.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look through my list because I was like quite surprised. I was like, man, this is super grimdark. Andrew would like that because you're like super into that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But what was it I just read? It was like super grim. I was like, man, this rivals the other stuff I've read, but
rivals Abercrombie?
Yeah, like I was like, damn, this is some dark shit. Like the Night Angel trilogy.
Oh,
there's some dark shit.
Brent Weeks?
There's some really dark shit in those books.
Oh, okay.
So I think you'd actually like them. You would like Night Angel because it's pretty grim dark. I wouldn't say the way he describes combat, but like the crazy ass shit that happens in the book is like, oh fuck, that's crazy. Like very dark because you got a Night Angel's assassin fantasy, so I think assassin fantasy is probably one of my favorite genres in fantasy.
Me too.
But you would like it because it's super dark. Like damn, like stuff especially that second book, man. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I'd recommend it to you. I think you would enjoy the Night Angel trilogy.
Awesome. Yeah, I should check that out. I'm still, as you know, reading the books in the Dresden Files series right now, and I might read based on what I was talking to you about. I might try the third book in the Dune series. I like the first one, but I didn't like the second one. And for people watching who don't know, the Dresden Files series is this really cool series. It's about this wizard living in the modern world who works as a private detective basically and works with the cops and goes hunting all of these magical creatures like rogue wizards who are using black magic, and ghosts and demons and vampires and werewolves. And he uses magic powers and spells and has constant magic battles, and it's really awesome. And the character development and world building increases as the series progresses. It's
I
a
have
really
to ask, are you listening to it or are you reading it?
I I listened to the first two and I read the third one as an audiobook. I'm going to try to kind of alternate a little bit throughout the series like that.
I am just listening to these because the narrator is that good. He
He is
is
good.
freaking amazing.
Yeah, he is really good. It's the guy, I think it says it's the guy who played Spike on Buffy who narrates them, for the ones that I listen to anyway.
Well, I know his name is Marsters, like Jim Marsters or
James
something like that.
Marsters, is it?
Yeah, there you go. But he is an amazing narrator. He has the style down. It's great. I don't think I could actually read these because he's that good. I just would rather listen to him tell the story.
With
It's
how
first
paced
person.
with how fast paced they are, though these books are, they you just fly through them as ebooks too, because it's like I'm constantly like, battle, okay, short break, okay, another battle, oh sweet, okay, another break, okay, another battle, awesome.
Yeah, they're page turners.
Yeah,
Like I usually finish these within a day listening to them or a day and a half. Like they glue you in.
they
Um,
do.
Man, we got off topic into all these books and stuff, and then Chris
Yeah,
was
you and
just
I
like,
always
"Oh,
end up talking about
Yeah.
what we've been reading lately, whether we were planning on it or not.
No, I was just looking up the Dresden Files.
Yeah.
Actually,
You should check them out if you want to. They're really short too. Like, other than what we were just talking about as well, they're also really quick to get through because they're pretty short.
yeah, they're 12 to 16-hour audiobooks. They're not very long if you're listening to them.
Yeah,
And you can listen to these comfortably, like at 1.8 speed without having any problems.
yeah.
But yeah,
I
Dresden's
listened to
fun.
them. It was cool because the second one, Full Moon, I decided to
Mhm.
listen to that while I was driving back to Fort McMurray from Edmonton, which is like a 6 hour drive, including stops. So I listened to that a little bit the day before. So I basically finished it right before I got home and listened to it the whole way. It's so cool to, like, because I haven't had a car lately. I don't drive that much. It's so cool to be driving on the highway and just looking at the scenery while you're listening to a really awesome audiobook.
Yeah, man. Like I don't even play music in my car. It's just podcasts or audiobooks. One of the two. I just feel naked. If I'm playing music, I was like, I'd rather be listening to a book or listening to a podcast. Even though I love music, it's just like, but I love books and podcasts more.
Yeah, me too.
yeah, I'm the same. I do actually. My schedule is Monday to Friday, audiobooks and podcasts, and then Saturday, Sunday, the weekend, I listen to music. And I
Oh,
feel
that's
like
cool.
I need a break because sometimes I'll listen to audiobooks or I'll listen to like series or whatever, and then I'll just be like, I'll get lost. You know what I mean? You listen to stuff, and some of the content is so thick that yeah, it's good to give your brain a break every once in a while. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I usually like listen to podcasts or audiobooks most of the time, and then before supper every night, right after I get baked and before I eat, I just listen to like a few songs that I feel like listening to, and then back to podcasts and audiobooks.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right on.
Yeah, occasionally I ask Alexa to play me some music, but yeah, it's mainly me trying to because I think I have 10 books checked out right now, so I
Wow.
always feel yeah, I always feel like damn, I gotta get through all these books because the next time I'm gonna see these specific books again could be months because that's how long I'll be on the waiting list for some of these.
Hmm. Are you
Yeah.
are you guys on Goodreads at all? Do you know what that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on
Yeah, are
Goodreads.
you?
Yeah, I am. I should add you guys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty active on there.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah, I'll after the show I'll send you my link or whatever.
Cool.
Yeah, I try to update my reads all the time there.
Yeah, me too. The only thing I don't do is like update what page I'm on or anything because I get I get through the average book within a few days or so anyway. So there's not much point.
Yeah, I definitely do the page updates because sometimes if I get to something really juicy, I'll comment about it in a vague way so that I won't spoil anything. But oh man, yeah, I'm on Goodreads, so
Me too.
you can add me there.
Cool, cool.
And I also I love Goodreads because sometimes you see something somebody's reading and it's like, oh, that sounds super interesting. I'll put that on my list.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, the problem is my list is so like I think I got like 70 books in my queue of that I want to digest. Hopefully one day.
yeah.
It never ends.
I've got like
Well,
thousands on my to read list, literally.
I think I have less than 200. So, and I know some of those I probably need to drop off of that to read list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
just trying to get, doing the ridiculous task of going through the Reddit thread. They have posted like the top 100 fantasy series. And I basically started from the bottom of that list and I'm working my way up it.
Jesus.
yeah. So how far are you into it?
I'm in the 80s.
Like like that many you have left, or that many you've read?
Well, I started at the bottom, so at 100, and I'm working my way up. Some of the ones I haven't been able to get simply because my library doesn't carry them.
Okay.
Um, but most of them have been read. Also, whenever Daniel Green gives a fantasy book a very bad review, it's like a must read for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why a bad review?
because really bad books are entertaining.
Okay.
I thought Sword of Truth was entertaining, and it's considered like a bad book.
It's funny because you and I have talked about this before, but like before I read Wheel of Time and before I read, I think also before I read Song of Ice and Fire. So when I was not that well read on fantasy, I read the Sword of Truth, and I thought it was awesome the first time I read it, and then I read book two, and then book three, and they got progressively worse with each book. So I think I gave up after book three, but like I said, I'd be interested to try to read it again to see what I think of it now, because I think maybe being more well read in fantasy would probably make me agree a little bit more with your perspective at least. Like I might still like it, but I might see the ridiculousness of it a little more.
There's some stuff I love about it, because there are some pretty imaginative things in the book, but there's also a lot of shit that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Just like mostly it's just the way that the main character behaves. Just a lot of the time doesn't make sense. But I do enjoy some of the world building he has in this story, and yeah, there's some really entertaining bits. Like there's this one tribe that greets each other by punching each other in the face. I was like, wow, that's
Yeah.
fucking extreme.
Yeah.
It's like, but they only do that like upon first meeting. After they've hit each other as hard as they could, like they just kind of do a symbolic version of that when
Right.
they greet each other. But when you first meet somebody, you're just gonna go all out and just punch the dude in the face. It's just ridiculous. I was like, man, this is super hilarious. The reason it's hilarious is because the writer was trying to be serious. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't meant to be funny. It's like you're thinking, are you serious? This tribe greets each other by basically socking each other in the face. It's just super ridiculous. And
Yeah.
none of this is supposed to be comedic because Cherry Goodkind is so full of himself. Like, none of the stuff that he's writing in his books is meant to be taken as a joke.
Right.
So,
I probably assumed because I didn't know anything about Terry Goodkind when I first read the first three books, I probably thought that some of that stuff was intended to be comedic. I don't remember, but I probably did.
but yeah, you're gonna have to reread this someday. I
Yeah.
would, I would love to do a book chat on this because it's fucking ridiculous. Another book I don't consider it bad fantasy, but I would also want to do one on Treason by Orson Scott Card, which
Yeah.
also has a lot of ridiculous stuff. But I think in the case of that book, he wasn't taking himself as seriously as Orson or as Terry Goodkind. He's just kind of
Okay.
like
Is that the
like
really bizarre and weird science fiction standalone science fiction novel that you told me
yeah,
about?
it's super freaking odd. It's like it's definitely a mix of sci-fi and fantasy, but it's weird. It's like, man, this is a strange story. I like it.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't consider it poorly written, but it's just bizarre.
Okay. Bizarre is okay. Like you told me before I read Dune that it gets really weird. But I thought like with the first book, like I said, I liked that one a lot. And I thought that the weird parts were kind of interesting, but like in the second book, like I had a lot of other problems with it too, but the more weird
Yeah.
parts were like more weird and made less sense to me in the second book.
I would suggest listening to the Legendarium's reviews of the ones you've read so far.
I was
'Cause
looking for the one on Dune and I couldn't find it, but I found the
they're
one on
there.
Messiah and I listened to it yesterday.
Yeah, they're there. If you can't find it on their stream, then you have to go to their website to find it.
That makes
As I
sense.
know, I think it's on Stitcher. All of their episodes aren't available, which is weird. On Google
Same
Play, it is, but
same
on
with
Google
on
Play,
same with on YouTube. Like even with the just audio that you can get of theirs, they have
mhm.
on YouTube there's Stormfront, the first Dresden Files book, but there isn't I think there isn't one for the second or third Dresden book there. And like I said, there's on the YouTube channel there's Dune Messiah but not Dune.
Yeah, so I would say check those out. They make more sense of the plot. Um, yeah, the second book I didn't like much. It's just like the first book has such great characters, and then you kind of lose those characters, and you get like their descendants, and then there's like some weird shit going on, and like there's no good characters like to really latch onto in the second book.
And it feels like a much smaller scale story, even though it seems like it's meant to be larger scale. And it seems really slow moving, even though it's a shorter book than the first one to me.
Yeah, the second book is pretty short. Yeah, just the first book is just great writing. I love the political plotting and the scheming and like the backstabbing. It's kind of like, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of like a condensed Wheel of Time or something. Is there are heavy influences, obviously. The Aiel or the Fremen, you know.
Yeah, for
The
sure.
Bene Gesserit are the Aes Sedai. There's
Yeah,
definitely, you could see that Jordan was heavily influenced by this book.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it gets really off the wall. The third book is like, the ending is like, what? This is some weird shit. Like, I don't, I think I've gotten up to the fourth book and I just kind of like, okay, I'll just end at the fourth book. I don't think I need to progress past there. Like, if you look at the cover of the fourth book, you're gonna be like, "What the fuck is this? Like, what am I getting myself into here?" That's what I mean by the book gets weird at the end of 3, and that's reflected in the covers you'll see of book 4. You're like looking at the covers of book 4, and you're like, "What the fuck is going on here?" It's like,
Okay.
if you read the ending of 3, it's like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. It's yeah,
In
that.
the Legendarium episode I was listening to about Dune Messiah, that one guy, I forget which guy it is, but he was saying that a lot of the stuff in this second one is important for the setup for the later books that come after that. Did you find that at least about the third one?
Uh, to be honest, I was just kind of phoning it in when I was listening to these books. Like, the first one grabbed me, and the second one I was having a really hard time engaging it. Like, I felt like I was just trying to get through it just to finish them. And yeah, there were some little bits here and there, but I'd say overall, like, the first book is just good, and the other two are like, oh, this is weird now. It's like they're focusing totally on the future telling stuff and the precognitive and the precognition and stuff like that. And then, because like at the end of the first book, the main character becomes godlike, and how do you progress past that? It's like,
Yeah,
if the main character becomes godlike, like what? How is what's the struggle going to be like in these next books? And they deal with that in a fashion, but I don't feel that it's that satisfying.
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But I'd say, yeah,
The
I'd at
first one is
least say
definitely
take
worth
it to the end
reading.
of the. Yeah, the first book's good.
Yeah, if
I'd
you
say take it to the third, and you can stop there. But I know you didn't like the second book. I'd say the
no,
third book is slightly better,
okay.
but if you want to really complete the story, you're gonna have to go to book 4.
Doesn't sound like it's worth reading book 4.
Well, the only reason, like, I'll basically read whatever the Legendarium reads, even if I hate it.
Wow, that's some
And I've
dedication.
done that. Like, I don't particularly like C.S. Lewis, but I finished all of his books. Um, Surprisingly, I didn't like Ursula Le Guin that much either, and I finished all of her books
Oh
because they
yeah, you
finished
mentioned
them.
that. All of
Well, it's
them?
just I think they,
Or all of the Earthsea
yeah, I
books?
finished them all. Yeah, I finished all the Earthsea books.
Oh, okay. I haven't read any of those yet.
I don't know if
I haven't read any of the Earthsea books. I
there.
read one of her other books. I forget what it's called though.
The Ursi books, I
Chris,
think they would have
have
been
you read
okay if
Dune?
I read them.
No, I
No,
feel like I need to get that.
it's worth it. Sorry.
I was gonna say I feel like I need to get that app that I forget what it's called, Minds or something like that, where it's like they'll give you a 10-minute synopsis on each book. It's kind of like Cole's Notes. Have you ever heard of this app?
Blinkist?
Blinkist. That's it. Sorry. I feel like I need to Blinkist all these books you guys are
I
talking
think I've
about.
heard of that.
Yeah,
Blinkist.
I had
That's the
that
one
on
that
my
David
last.
Pakman is all slinging.
Yeah. I had that on my last phone, but not this one. It was pretty cool. I feel like it's cheating now, though, to read a book in 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's true.
But it is cool, though, especially if it's like a book that you've heard about but don't necessarily want to get into totally. Like, I think one of those that I read on that one, just like a summary of it, was Leviathan by Thomas Hobbes.
Mhm.
I figured, for this one, I don't necessarily need to read this old, dusty intellectual book in total.
Cool. Yeah, I feel like I need to get that app.
Yeah,
There's so much books and there's so many podcasts out there. Not enough hours in the day.
exactly. Yeah. It's kind of a good thing, though. It means we'll never run out.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yep.
Actually,
read.
I got through a lot, like like not one good thing about the pandemic. It's hard to say that, or it sounds weird to say that, but with a majority of people spending so much time at home, I got through a bunch of podcasts and audiobooks that I wanted to kind of get through. So
Me too. Yeah, I mean, like, I read hundreds of books a year, and I'm still never gonna run out of books to read, which is great because, like, probably at least hundreds of thousands of books get released every year, I would say.
oh yeah, it's always, and once you have man, every podcast I listen to has a new author on, and they're always promoting or pimping their book. And then I'm on Goodreads, and then Goodreads has got like 200 in their recommendations for me to read, which also, you know what I mean, adds to my list. And yeah, it's I sometimes find there's like too many books, or everybody releases a book these days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or it's just like the cool. Sometimes people are just releasing a book. Like Dave Rubin is a perfect example of this. This guy, he just releases a book. He's never an author before, but all of a sudden now he has a book coming out, and Jordan Peterson did it, and now you have to do it. You know what I mean? Like everybody has a book.
Did you guys read Dave Rubin's book? I read it because my library got it, and it was like as bad as I expected it to be.
Yeah, it's on my list of books to check out, but it's not like wasn't at the top of the hierarchy. So
he's like basically throughout the whole book, okay, here are my ballsy opinions to say that are pretty much just kind of like boring centrist, and I don't use that word in a pejorative way like some people do because I consider myself a centrist. But his political policies are pretty different from mine in some ways, but he thinks they're like ballsy because he has like some conservative leaning views and some left leaning views. Ooh, big deal.
Yeah, but he's really shifted. I mean, if you go back, if you look at his interview with him and Larry Elder when he kind of schools him on race relations, right? And Dave plays the typical white liberal there. And then fast forward to 6 years later after he left Young Turks, and now he's going. Him and his husband are meeting with Donald Trump. You know what I mean? Like this is such a huge leap in political landscape.
Apparently, he's also no longer an atheist.
Oh, yeah. Now, following Jordan Peterson around on tour for a year probably.
Yeah. Oh, he's so in love with Jordan Peterson. It's so. Yeah. Did you guys hear him say? I forget where I saw him say this, but he said too. Yeah, I love 12 Rules for Life, but I tried to read Maps of Meaning. Oh, it was way over my head.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen that.
I like Maps of Meaning more. I mean, it's not a self-help book, but I think even though it's that one is a really intellectual book, but he does like cross-examinations of different, like comparing different religions and trying to like uh he connects them to psychology in a really interesting way, and like points towards some universal like practices from religions, which is kind of like I think I might have talked to you about this before, Dusty. Like he is kind of like happiness hypothesis in a way.
Yeah, except happiness hypothesis is more sciencey focused.
Yeah, and it's actually
So,
easier to read and understand too.
yeah.
He does that a lot. Peterson does with I don't know if you've ever heard his biblical lecture series that he does. He pretty much goes through like the Old Testament and compares it to, or basically how Young and different kind of philosophers viewed it over time, and then he gives his own opinion on it too. So yeah.
I think I
Yeah,
probably
I almost feel that Peterson's like a wannabe Robert Langdon.
yeah, that's true. That's a good description. It'd be cool
Because
if he
like
was.
he's always looking into things, and like when I say a wannabe Robert Langdon, he imposed some type of subjective meaning to like weird shit. Like
Yeah.
weird psychological shit. Like it's like, oh, where do you come up with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And where
It's
he gets
based
carried
on
away.
like science or history.
Yeah,
Is
where he gets carried away for me too is where
psychology.
he starts talking about how, you know, these psychological structures and religions have evolved in us for millions of years. Religions are evolutionary, so we should, like, religions are really important because they've evolved in us for millions of years. I'm like, nah, not really. That kind of is an exaggeration. And especially when he starts talking about how no one is an atheist. He says that in 12 Rules of Life. I'm like, shut up, bro. I'm an atheist. You can be an atheist. It's possible.
Yeah. Oh, Peterson is an interesting guy,
Yeah.
but
He definitely, like, he has a lot of useful things to say too. Like my last podcast with Parker Evans, he's a big fan of him, and we were talking about that too. He does have some valuable stuff to say. And I know my friend Shane Kennedy, who's on here a lot, is like in love with him. So it's that's
I love
understandable
him.
too.
He's in love
Yeah,
with Peterson.
I never
Yeah.
read Maps of Meaning. I did read his 12 Rules for Life though.
What did you think of it?
Yeah.
I didn't mind it actually. I thought it was very, I don't know, I just found it very like a lot of like the 10, I want to compare it to like the 10 commandments in Christianity or something like that, right? If you could do the same and dissect the 10 commandments in Christianity and go through everyone and how they can better suit your life. He does the same thing with the 12 rules where he kind of makes his own rules, obviously, but then a lot of them are kind of this, moral good and how you can, be better in your life, which is fine, I don't know. Yeah. Peterson's always been
Yeah.
a guy I dip in and out of. I don't mind some of the things he does. I think he can be kind of hyperbolic on some things like postmodernism and the use
Cultural
of
Marxism.
that and the verb or the gender pronouns thing. I don't know. It's funny how he became famous over such a silly thing.
Yeah.
When he's
Well,
done
he
more.
got famous because he said that the SJWs were leading us to the gulag.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
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 Oh.
It's funny, like the the anti-SJW crowd can get just as ridiculous as the SJW crowd sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
And like as I've
Yeah.
discussed on this channel many, many times, his understanding of philosophy is very poor. Like postmodernism and Marxism, they're like, I'm not a fan of Marxism, but it's different from the way he describes it. And in that debate with Slavoj Žižek, who is an actual Marxist, all he read before the debate was the Communist Manifesto, which doesn't give you a very good education of Marxism. And he hasn't read anything about postmodernism other than Stephen Hicks' book explaining postmodernism, which takes writers like Foucault and Derrida out of context and totally gets backwards what they were saying, as we've discussed before too.
Well, that and Hicks is always trying to tie. Like he shows, I know there was this debate between him and Thaddeus, and like the whole time he was trying to say that like Foucault and Derrida were like secret Marxists or something.
They were like anarchists, man. Foucault in particular.
Yeah.
He said government is the only fatal form of power. I'm pretty sure that's a direct quote. Like like that's not a Marxist thing to say.
Yeah, and he also didn't define power as a object, but as a relationship between people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The way people
Yeah.
interact with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Peterson, you know, he was bright for a long time, and it seems like he just burnt himself out.
Yeah. Well,
He already had pre-existing like mental problems like before then.
Did you guys hear?
So
I watched there's a recent podcast. I didn't even know until recently that Jordan Peterson's daughter, Michaela Peterson, has a podcast. And I think like a few weeks ago now, they did an episode, and it's his only appearance for like the past year or so. And he goes into detail about all the problems that he was dealing with, like how he started on SRIs, and he ended up getting addicted to benzodiazepines, which he started taking because his wife got cancer and she was in treatment for a long time. And then he was in treatment, and they were trying to find doctors all over the world to treat his benzodiazepine addiction, which made his other pre-existing health conditions worse. And apparently he's starting to get a little bit better, but it's still very difficult. Something like that.
Well, he already had mental problems before all this happened. Because I remember when I first heard about Peterson, I was doing some research on him, and apparently he had been showing up on some Canadian talk show like as a regular guest. And then this is like back when he was like a little chubbier and he had a beard. And he was talking about how he had this major like depression.
Yeah,
so even back then he was talking about how he had major depression. So I was like, how's this gonna?
He's talked about that in his more recent lectures too. He he talked about how he went through a really dark period. That's when he talks about how he was researching how evil can happen, and it made him really depressed. And that's when he had some sort of like religious revelation or something. But he still has been, like you were saying, he's had problems with depression for a long time. And I think like I was saying, on one of the things that I think he said on that podcast was that he had been taking SSRIs for years before he started taking benzodiazepines in the last year or two.
I didn't see that.
What podcast was this?
It was. I think it's just called the Michaela Peterson podcast. It's on YouTube. I don't know where else it is, but it's probably on iTunes and stuff too.
No, it's on YouTube. I didn't see the episode, but I saw I saw people were sharing it, and I saw different clips from it, just as talking about how well he did. What's funny though is I did watch one of her episodes the other day because Michael Malice was one of her guests,
Oh yeah, he's awesome.
and I was like, okay, sometimes like two people get together and they have a conversation, right? And you're just like, all right, let's see where this is gonna go, right? But yeah, it was pretty good. I recommend watching that. Michaela
Cool.
Peterson, Michael Malice. It's a weird combination. They talk about North Korea a lot, but yeah,
Oh, okay. I've seen him talk about North Korea so many times.
yeah,
Oh, that's his cup of tea there. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what put him on the map.
I've been watching those podcasts that Michael Malice has been doing with Dave Smith all the time.
yeah.
I like it. I like both of them a lot, even though they're like anarchists and libertarians, and I certainly would not classify myself that way. But I think I just like their personalities a lot. Even when I disagree with some of their political opinions, I think they describe them in a really good way.
hmm Yeah, no, they feed off each other well because I think that like a lot of the times they start off those podcast episodes like I was kind of wondering what you think about this, Dave, or I was wondering what you think about this, Michael. So they have their kind of own set opinions on different various political topics, but they all are also curious as to what other people in different political spectrums are seeing too. So
Yeah, and I like how they especially Michael Malice, and I've noticed especially especially as he's gotten older a little bit, he's gotten like more mature and more nuanced in his way of particularly understanding other people's arguments of people who disagree with him, I would say.
mm-hmm.
He's really good at empathizing with other people's views.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, he's an interesting guy. Again, another IDW guy that I go in and out of all from time to time. Same with Dave Smith. Um, uh, the other guy that he has on, I think his name is Robbie. With
Yeah.
Dave. Their dynamic doesn't work for me for some reason. I don't know what it is. I tend to skip over their episodes. I don't mind when Dave does the solo episodes, but I have been enjoying the Michael Malice Dave crossover that they've been doing, and I hope they continue to do it even after the pandemic is over. So
Yeah, that'd be cool.
yeah,
I
They're
guess
doing it because of the pandemic?
I think they started it doing it because of because they were stuck at home and they couldn't have any guests, right? So they just thought they would just interview each other back and forth, and I think it's done well for both their shows.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I listened to because they talk so much about libertarianism. I listened to an audiobook of one of those like famous libertarian people. I forget. No, wait, it actually wasn't. It wasn't one of those famous libertarian thinkers like Mises or Rothbard or one of those people. It was actually. I thought it was at first, but it turned out to be about this guy who traded stocks, and then he started relating libertarianism to like Taoist philosophy and the art of war and stuff. And I was like, okay, I get what you're trying to do, but I'm not buying it.
I'm not buying it. Yeah, you're not buying it like you're not buying Kanye's presidential candidacy.
No.
Man, was that a freaking disaster. I was like, this is not going to end. As soon as I heard that, I was like, this is not going to end well.
No.
and it did not.
There was a funny little infighting among libertarians thing that Dave Smith has been talking about how the new, I think it's the new
candidate Joe
like
Jorgensen.
Yeah. Is she the new candidate for the leader of the Libertarian Party, I think?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah,
Something like that.
she's tweeted something like or he thinks that maybe just someone who runs her Twitter possibly tweeted something like being passively not racist is not enough. We have to be aggressively anti-racist. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. And he got really mad at her about that, which is like from his libertarian perspective, which is understandable, I think. Like he's even talked about sometimes like from his libertarian perspective the right to discriminate and even the right to segregate.
Yeah, that's where I kind of not. I'm not on. That's why I'm not on board with anarcho-capitalists, because that has to be within their ethos in
Yeah.
order for them to operate. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, it's just
I
like,
also
no,
agree
I
with
don't
it.
think
Like
so.
at the same time that I don't agree with especially the right to segregate, especially that. I still understand his criticism of her, like because she's taking like a really left-wing political stance, and one of his criticisms was that that's going to turn off any right-leaning people who are like curious about libertarianism to be more convinced by it.
Or is it a
Thinking
good
about the
political
Black
move
Lives
for her
Matter
to
stuff.
do?
What was that? You were both talking at once.
Or is it a good political move for her to do?
It could be like you don't. It's hard to say. Like the the wokeness is like it's a fringe of people who believe it, but it seems like it's becoming mainstream in some ways, and it's definitely starting to affect some real world events too.
Yeah, but I kind of subscribe to what Kyle Kalinske says. It's mostly just bullshit.
What is?
Well, the answer, like, most of the wokeness is hollow, and when I say this is like what is changing, and it's mostly just not issues. It's like things that don't actually affect. Well, I'm saying like all the wokeness doesn't actually affect anything. Is what I'm saying. So
What about like
I think
the Chaz or whatever it's called?
well,
And
ultimately, what
like
does
the
that
defunding
do?
police stuff.
Well, here's what I'm saying about the wokeness and the signaling of that. Thinking about what are the underpinnings of what actually caused the issue. It's basically police brutality, the incarceration rate in the states, like how ridiculous it is that you get arrested and put in jail for really mundane things. Nobody's addressing that, and that's basically what's causing all of this, just the police state. And instead people are going like, what is it, white fragility? Like, how does that help
Exactly.
how does white fragility help black communities? It doesn't.
It doesn't.
How does like any of these token measures that people
One
are
of the
taking do anything?
one of the
It doesn't.
interesting things that I've seen Thaddeus Russell say about this when he's talked to people on his podcast about it is that like this white fragility thing in particular, it's like, okay, white people created these problems, so white people have to solve them, and what should matter to black people is what white people think about them. But why should they care? Why should why should you be like endlessly focusing on what white people think about you? Like why should they be the lens through which society is focusing? Whatever everyone needs to care about what white people think about stuff. So white people have to fix these issues. And that's like it's not to say, and this can go like all the way into like Thaddeus Russell was talking with, I think it was like a black supremacist about this, who was saying that, or maybe it was Hotep Jesus, that guy that Drew Sample told me about. I think it might have been. So like this is where it can go too far, in my opinion, to like the more libertarian perspective of being like pro segregationist, like the way that Malcolm X was at one point. But so like you got to find like some sort of balance there, like, and to me have more of the Martin Luther King Jr. or like Daryl Davis approach, and have everyone of every race work together to try to solve the problem of police brutality.
Yeah, like it's just when you just think about the police brutality stuff, it's like, taking a knee, like Nancy Pelosi taking a knee with like a freaking, I don't know what you call it, a dashiki colored, like,
whatever.
yeah, with like this fake dashiki shawl on isn't gonna help
Yeah,
black
she doesn't
people stay out of
she
prison.
doesn't fucking care about police brutality. She's not gonna do shit.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, well, I think it's important though, like honoring people like John Lewis, the congressman who just died recently. He was actually marching right alongside Martin Luther King.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he
Hey,
was one of the first people to speak. He was the first person to speak when King marched in Washington. He was only 23. He was young.
Okay.
But he was an associate of Martin Luther King, and he was all about the civil rights movement. But I don't know. It's just like there's a lot of people offering platitudes, and I'm talking about like mostly in the corporate space. A lot of it is just like platitudes. They're not really doing much. It's just, how do you fix these problems where if someone gets out of jail, they become unhireable?
Exactly. Yeah.
We have a high prison population, and people don't think about the people who are not in prison anymore, who have this giant sign that says, "I am an ex-con, hire me." And like, it's so hard for them to survive in a world where nobody wants to hire them, and then they end up getting back into drugs.
Exactly.
And, like, I highly recommend this book. I just finished it. It's called The Short and Tragic Life of Robert Peace. It's actually on the MMA reading list.
Is that
But it's about this.
Matt Taibbi?
No, it's not Matt Taibbi. It's a fairly journalistic work, but the book is about this kid from the ghetto who was super smart. He actually ended up going to Yale, and then because he didn't know any better, he ended up dying 10 years later from a drug deal gone bad.
Oh, okay.
It's a good book. I recommend it to people who just want to see like the reality of what people have to deal with in their environments. But it's just like, what's this woke signaling by upper class, like white lefties, really doesn't do much to help the situation. They're not really addressing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an important point too, I think. Like it's mostly like upper class white people who are doing this to make themselves feel good about themselves. Like,
and to make themselves rich. I mean, Robin DiAngelo is like, isn't she up to 50 grand per talk now or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
For your corporation. So
she makes tons and tons of money going around teaching people to not be racist.
Yeah, and then I was trying to check out her book for my library, and I'm in like 700 in line.
Holy shit! Wow.
Dude, it's like
to check out this fucking book about telling how white.
It's $11.
Yeah, but I don't want to buy it. I'm not going to spend money on
Yeah,
that.
that's what I was thinking too. I can't find it in my library or for free online, and I don't really think I want to
Apparently,
pay
it's free
for
on
it.
YouTube. I know
Really?
you like to listen to books on YouTube. Yeah, as Thomas, what's his name? Andrew Thomas sent me a link to it. I don't know if
Oh,
it's still up, but I'll send it to you.
okay.
But it was up on YouTube.
Okay.
But yeah, I wouldn't pay money for that. I just don't. I'm just because I like viewing stuff that I'm opposed to ideologically. Occasionally, I have to just take a look at it. I know I'm gonna hate this book, but I got to see what all the rage is.
Yep.
Yeah,
Me too.
John McWhorter did a review on it a couple of days ago that I read, and he pretty much destroyed the book. But I don't know, it was a decent review. You can Google it, I'm sure.
Oh, it is
Yeah,
here.
I've listened to a couple of Matt Taibbi's podcasts about it.
Me too.
Because I know he ripped into it, um, and he kind of exposed it as a scheme that's not really going to do anything. Like, I don't understand how teaching corporate people not to be racist is going to help some black person in the ghetto.
Exactly.
It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I've seen this book recommended by people, and I was like, I'll. And when I say recommended, there are a bunch of like memes during like the height of the George Floyd thing of things that white people should read or listen to or watch.
I saw that. I saw
And
that.
that was one of the books. Like, I looked at the list. I was like, yeah, there's some actually good books on here, but it's kind of poisoning the well with these other shitty books.
Yeah.
Like the New Jim Crow is on there. I like that book.
Okay.
I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, me too.
Malcolm X was on there. It's a good book. I love his autobiography. And then also on that same list was White Fragility. And it's like, why? Why? And then the 1619 project.
It's so hard. Like, you can see how religious this mindset is when you like. I read someone posted in Mixed Mental Arts a long time ago, like an article about white fragility. Like, it was an actual scholarly paper about it, and I read it, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? This is the most racist shit I've ever fucking read, other than like the actual anti-abolitionist book that I read once that Drew recommended to me. Like, it's like, white people are this way. They respond this way because of this. They do this because of this. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing with all this mind reading? You can't just say all white people think the same way. You can't say that about any race of people. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's dumb. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I understand the Mick Warder and the Coleman Hughes view of things. Like, yeah, there's angry people. Why aren't they focusing on certain things, et cetera, et cetera? But I also feel like both McWhorter and Hughes aren't a part of that world. So, both Hughes and McWhorter are upper middle class black people.
Yeah.
I don't believe that they have a significant social sphere within the poor black community.
No.
So I understand when they start to get into statistics about things. Yeah, there's certain discrepancies here and there, but and then racism can play a part in some of them. Here's the thing, that I believe that there is some percentage of racism in any interaction that you're gonna have. It might be like a 0.1%, which is nothing, or it could be 50%, which could be like, hey, this guy's a racist asshole.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's never going to be there. There's always going to be some percentage, and it's hard to quantify how much racism plays a role in something. Like
I agree with everything you said there, and it's like you can't expect it to go to away, because it's like it's just noticing physical differences. It's your skin color looks different. It's like, to me, it's the same as your eye color is different, your hair color is different, and like even just like people are never not going to notice physical differences uh, with themselves. And yeah, I forgot what else I was going to just say there based on what you said, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with
yeah,
all that.
so yeah, I just think at first glance, like there can be some prejudicial decisions made. Like, say you see a black person, so you're going to assume this and that. I don't think there's a way to avoid prejudice for whatever race there is, whether it's white or Asian or whatever. Like, I make those stereotypical decisions all the time, especially when I'm driving. Like, I'm not going to mention who or what, but I see, like, oh, I bet it's this type of person, making this stereotypical prejudice judgment.
Right.
But people make
Old
them.
people.
Old people or
Your ages.
whatever.
Yeah.
But I think to say that racism plays no factor in things, I don't think that's a helpful conversation. I also
Yeah.
don't think it's helpful saying it's just racism.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like saying that racism isn't a problem is like saying that everything is always about racism. They're like, the truth is somewhere in the middle of those guys. Like, don't get so extreme.
Yeah, and I don't think, and it's also, there's these terms that are super vague and undefinable. Like, what the hell is systemic racism?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what is, when someone says widespread systemic racism, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, it's like an unquantifiable term.
It's a metaphysical religious belief. This metaphysical presence of racism everywhere, invading all interactions.
Well, I just call it an unquantifiable term. There's no, like, widespread is subjective.
Yes.
Like, there's no scientific definition that tells me what widespread means. Systemic, like, okay, there's another vague thing. Like, I am definitely believe that there are racist hotspots in the country. Like, we can all point to them, that they're there. But systemic and widespread racism, that's just kind of that's dodging, I think. Like, if you take a look, there are places where there's obvious racism, but focusing on this vague battle just doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
I also don't
like,
think we've done ourselves any favors by
yeah, let's fight
change.
against widespread systemic racism. And then I'm thinking, what the fuck does that even mean?
Yeah.
Well, racism, the term itself is constantly changing too, which also is, like racism in 1960 means a lot different than racism in 2020, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like,
Which that could be a good thing. I mean, words change all the time as well.
well, even the term itself, like calling somebody a racist, what quantifies that? Like, what makes someone a racist? How do you qualify that statement?
People do it different ways, a lot of different ways.
Like, what is the threshold between being not a racist and a racist?
Like if you follow the white fragility ideology, it's not possible to not be racist, yet you still have to always fight to stop racism and end it. not just reduce it, end it completely, even though it's impossible. It's like I was saying this when I was talking to Parker about it last week. It's like a replacement for enlightenment. It's something to always strive towards, but you will never achieve.
Well, I think in my case, I don't consider racism. It's okay. So when I think of racism, I think of degrees. So if somebody's racist, well, first off, I think everybody's racist to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever, like, the term, oh, that person's a racist, when someone is using that term, that means that there's some type of threshold. Typically, when people use that term, there's a threshold between not being racist and being racist, as if it's like some type of binary condition that you're either racist or not racist. I don't believe that. I think there's a sliding scale of racism. Someone can be slightly racist, someone can be super racist.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I don't really get into these, oh, that person's racist. Because one, I think everyone's racist to some degree anyway. Like
For
it could be 0.1. It's like the same thing. Humans cannot escape tribalism, and racism is just a subset of that. So it's inescapable in some respect. But there's also, I don't think you can stamp it out. It's just some subset of psychology that humans have. We're all tribal, and racism is just a subset of tribalism.
Well,
Yep.
it's all pattern recognition, and we're unfortunately can be bad at it sometimes. It's
For sure.
if I go to Mongolia and I meet 3 Mongolians and they slap me in the face, the first time I meet them, the fourth Mongolian, I think is going to slap me in the face, right? So,
Mm-hmm. Good example.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. I don't like the whole you're racist back and forth. It's just not
Yeah.
productive.
It's funny, like
But
a lot of people have talked about this already, but it becomes sort of a boy who cried wolf scenario if everyone if racist becomes just this broad term. Like I have worked with, and I have known people like friends of my parents who are clearly racist, and they're like, well, like they don't go around beating up black people or something like that, but they've said very racist things around me because I'm white, as if I won't have a problem with it because I'm white. Like one guy I was working with once, he literally said this. He said, "I'm not racist, but all Egyptians are the same."
yeah, it's a contradiction there. Oh,
Rose.
frozen Andrew.
So horrible.
I think we're gonna get a delayed Andrew now.
And
Uh,
the I've,
You're turning
like
into a robot.
I've heard I've heard people say shit like that. Like when someone says something like that, you can tell that they're really racist. Like someone saying, like, I don't know, if I call black people instead of people of color, am I equally racist for doing?
So if you call him Pox,
Yeah.
Pox Humana.
Oh, my internet is slowing down again.
Yep.
Yeah, you were cutting out there for a bit.
I think
Yep,
I'm
we
getting
tend
a glitch again. Can you guys still hear me, bros?
Yeah, we can hear you say whoop whoop.
Maybe we should just end it here in a minute. Can you guys still hear me? Send you
Say
guys messages in the chat if you can.
Yeah.
say whoop whoop.
Oh, am I
Say what?
just gonna say I could just end it now, guys. Whoop
Oh, there
whoop.
it is.
Whoop,
Yeah, so
whoop.
he is behind. That's
Yeah,
so
there's a
weird.
delay.
Oh, there is. Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do my outro and end it here then.
Yeah, go ahead, wrap it up, dude.
So, yeah. So,
Whoop whoop.
thanks. So,
I think we're back in time now.
are we?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, so like I said, I'm gonna do my outro and then you guys can give any of your last words there. All right. So, thanks to everyone for watching another episode of the Mindgasms podcast. Hope you enjoyed us talking about several other topics like books and current events and Black Lives Matter and Jordan Peterson and all this stuff, all this exciting extra stuff for you. Thanks to all of you who subscribe to my channel. Click the like button on this video, share it everywhere, and especially to those of you who give me money on Patreon. I really appreciate that. And most importantly, always remember this: the funk cures all. And all takeaways, and read the first love. Yeah. Any from maybe you, Dusty. Are you guys still hearing me?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, hear you. So I'll go ahead and knock it out here. I say go watch Parasite. It is an excellent example of fine foreign cinema that has some great twists and turns and has a great plot, I guess, and all that other good stuff. But if you want to see something that is entertaining, that is shocking, that is not your average movie, go ahead and check out Parasite.
For sure.
Yeah, watch Parasite. It's a good film. Thanks for tuning in. Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
Have
That's
you
all I
been
got.
watching that Netflix documentary? I just
No.
started
Yeah, it's
watching
friggin' crazy, man. It's insane.
It's on my list.
It's
dark, man.
It's insane that he got away with that shit for as long as he did.
yeah.
They should throw that attorney general
Yeah,
from
man.
Florida in prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Alan Dershowitz. That's the crazy one. Did you watch the whole thing?
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
I've only seen the first two parts so far, I think.
Oh, the last part's pretty crazy. But anyway, Alan Dershowitz, OJ's former lawyer, he is one of the accused now, along with Prince Andrew.
Yeah, that's right. And Bill Clinton.
Well, actually, I haven't
He was
seen
also,
anyone directly accuse Bill Clinton yet.
Bill Clinton's, Bill Clinton's and
I know he was on the flight logs. That's what I know so far.
Yeah. And I think also apparently he was seen on Epstein's island, and apparently he was seen like around one of the girls with Epstein, but didn't necessarily have sex with any of them. I think that's what I've heard that people have said, but not confirmed. Or maybe some of that is
unsealed
confirmed.
files. There's been some unsealed files, I think, that incriminate some pretty heavy hitters. I haven't looked at them yet. I will eventually, though.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway,
All right. All right. Well, also good little also another end note there too. All right. So, adios until next time, everyone.
All right. Adios.